360 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Cause they got the beat, the campus beat, the campus beat. Yeah, the campus beat.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Amy's off, so it's just me. And everything new, everything old is new again at Northwestern University. As I've recounted before, back when I was on campus, I was easily the most hated person on campus because not only was I one of the co-founders of the weekly independent newspaper, the alternative to the Daily Northwestern, where all the Medill grads congregated, called the Northwestern Chronicle, by the way. I also ran a conservative speakers bureau called the Conservative Council. And I had run-ins with ASG, Associated Student Government, all of these centralized planners and training over at Northwestern, the best and the brightest. And they actually tried to remove me as the president of this student group that brought conservative speakers to campus. I won't get into all the gory details of it, but they brought me before the ASG tribunal, Star Chamber, probably a more accurate description, and moved like articles of impeachment to have me removed as the head of the student group. And I was able to F. Bailey my way out of it. But that's the same thing going on many, many moons later after I was there. It happened earlier this month. James Lindsay, conservative speaker, public discourse. We've played clips from him before when he was part of a panel at the EU talking about essentially the identitarian ideology of our day, the left's identitarianism. And that was the topic of his speech at Northwestern, the dangers of identity politics and intersectionality. Unlike back in my day, apparently the administration allowed James Lindsay to come, and there wasn't much that Associated Student Government could do about it. Back when I was there were a lot of speakers that, so this has been going on for a long time, and actually more aggressively back in time in some respects. The administration, when I was there, they would sponsor all the leftist speakers. Patricia Ireland, who was the head of National Organization for Women at the time, Sister Souljah, who was sort of the flash in the pan Black Lives Matter activist of her day, Ice-T, and on and on and on. Every Angela Davis, every communist under the sun. And there was efforts to prevent speakers from coming to campus. That didn't happen here. Lindsay was able to come and speak. But after the fact, the college Republicans were brought up on charges, effectively, because of a flyer that was posted around campus publicizing the event. And the flyer had an image associated with the speech title, The Dangers of Identity, Politics, and Intersectionality, of sunglasses with a rainbow flag and a skull and crossbones in the on the glasses, and the shades themselves. And, of course, what does that convey? Identitarian politics is poison, as I've said often on this show. It's intellectual poison. But that wasn't the interpretation of the luminaries on the Associated Student Government. They called that a threat to the LGBT community. By the way, the designer of that logo, that image on the flyer, gay. Doesn't matter. They called it offensive, and one of the individuals on the student government, their names are not important. They'll be in some government bureaucracy someday, and they won't be important then either. Said there is a side of injustice and one of justice. ASG does not want to be on the side of injustice, so they froze the funds of the college Republicans, which really aren't theirs to freeze, really, without getting into the nuances of student government, student fees, student activities fees. Anyway, are the college Republicans going to do about it? Agustin Bear is the acting president of Northwestern University's College Republicans, and he joins us now. Agustin, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Well, my pleasure, Dan. And to answer your question, what are college Republicans going to do about it? I think it's more what we did. And what we did was we said the truth. We stood up for what we believe in. We spoke with different media outlets. We tried to, patiently and responsibly speak with university officials and even with ASG executives. And even though originally they didn't invite us in for any of their deliberations when they passed this emergency legislation, so important, to cut our funding, they didn't call us in. They didn't even notify us afterwards. Eventually, the university was feeling a little bit uncomfortable, I assume, because they had some of their executives sit down and talk with us. And when I sat down with them, I had to apologize for the flyer, which, by the way, was being put out by YAF, which is an independent organization from college Republicans. When
Young America's Foundation.
The first batch came out. Exactly. Like, we have a chapter at Northwestern. It's a new thing. Honestly, there's a lot of overlap between the two groups, but they were putting out first, and I was like, okay, we're also co-hosting. You should put at least our logo on it, too.
Uh-huh.
But eventually,
right. By the way, just as a quick aside, Young America's Foundation is now headed by former Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker, as we've had on this show. But anyway, so just go ahead. It's just a conservative speakers bureau that helps student groups around the country. Conservative student groups bring conservative speakers to campus. But sorry, go ahead, Augustin.
Yeah, exactly. So I was able to sit down and talk with them and learn about their procedures. The letter of the law is important. And what we figured out was, A, that they understood they had messed up in not bringing us in, and B, that their law was all bark and no bite, because it was pending an investigation by the university into those flyers, and the university didn't believe those flyers merited an investigation. There was nothing wrong with them, and even if some people got offended, well, subjective belief of harassment does not constitute so, according to the Northwestern's own policies and guidelines on it. So what I just received last night was confirmation from ASC that there is no investigation, and that per the legislation's parameters, the freeze on college Republicans funding is now void.
Oh, very good. All right. Now, maybe you should put that logo in question as a representing Associated Student Government. Maybe that could be their new logo because they're intellectual poison as well. But I mean, that the whole thing, it's so perfect because essentially, just going back to my case and without the details, essentially there was a double jeopardy. They attempted to violate sort of our societal norms and criminal legal norms of double jeopardy when they tried to depose me as the head of this conservative speakers bureau I ran. And so it sort of went the same way. And so here we have them unilaterally freezing funding, a power they don't have, and they don't engage the party who's funding their freezing. I mean these people are probably going to be members of the Illinois General Assembly before too long upon graduation.
Quite possible, but one of the factors that gives me a little bit of relief is to see at least that there are, even if there's a lot of them and their ideas are crazy, they're still pretty incompetent. So that's nice.
That's the good news. So what is, just generally speaking, and maybe this is an indication of it, what is campus culture like at Northwestern these days?
Well, for most people, they're rather indifferent. They just go with the flow, Human beings are pack animals. Like, we like moving in groups. We're social. It makes sense. Sometimes it's hard to think, especially when your thoughts might end up being inconvenient, right? But there are some activists, some lower on the rungs of the ladder who believe that society owes them, whether because they're, some sort of ethnic or cultural or religious or, honestly, nowadays, some sort of sexual or gender or something minority. And then there are some who think that they are the future elites, that they are the figures that will lead our country and the world into their beautiful multiculturalism.
You know what's fun about that? If I could just stop you there. You know what's fun about that? So they're at this elite, quote unquote, elite university, but they simultaneously consider themselves victims and elites that are part of the new Vanguard class. It's amazing the split mind that they are able to hold these contradictory ideas, in their minds at the same time, which is, by the way, a definition of either genius or psychopathy. You can determine which.
Well, I will say there are some students who are there on scholarship, people who have worked really hard and who are victims of circumstances, right? Who have difficult family backgrounds, different cultural backgrounds, just less resources in their lives, who have, made their way up through their own efforts and through, intelligence and hard work, people who I very much admire. And the university focuses much less on these people than those who complain about being misgendered, right? So that's sort of the point that we reached. It used to be, I don't know, back in the day, 50 years ago, the Democrats cared about like the little guy, the hard worker, blue collar, the black guy in the South who could get lynched if he looked at a white woman sideways. Like, it used to be about actual problems, actual suffering from actual people, and now it's about pretended problems, about pretended suffering over pretended identities.
Mm-hmm. What are you studying at Northwestern? What's your story? What year are you? What are you studying?
I'm a junior. I'm studying. My major's in economics, and I'm minoring in business and French.
Oh, okay, very good. And what are you going to do upon graduation?
I'm going to work, actually work for a corporation that provides services for other people.
Okay, that's just crazy enough to potentially benefit you.
I would like to have a family one day and keep them safe from all this craziness.
And how are you, especially now with this profile, you and other college Republicans, how are you being received on campus as you go from class to activities and so forth?
Overall, not too much interaction in person. One of the things I've noticed with people who try to be bullies is they also tend to sometimes be cowards. Mm-hmm. But online, I'm not really on social media, which I think is a good thing. But I heard from other people they were doing false quotes trying to paint me as a racist or anti-Semitic or really ugly stuff like that. I'm toning it down, but honestly, I just don't care. I'm here to say the truth, and I'm here to help other people, and it's because I care about these people who are confused that I'm going to keep on working with college Republicans to bring in other speakers to remind them of what reality is. Give them their check.
Very good. He is Agustin Bear, gives some hope for the future, even for Northwestern graduates. Hopefully you'll maybe recast the reputation of the university better than I have. Agustin Bear, acting president of Northwestern University College Republicans. Agustin, thanks so much for joining us. Good luck at school. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Have a good.
And he joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
I'm Daniel Simmons, owner of Simmons Madison Funeral Home in Elgin. As an Army veteran, I understand the sacrifice, dedication, and